Let's Make a Soccer Team is a 2006 football management RPG for the PlayStation 2 published by Sega and developed by Smilebit, aka Sega Sports R&D. Smilebit are more well known as the developers of such games as Jet Set Radio, Panzer Dragoon, and 100 Swords, while its successor was famous for the first of the Mario and Sonic games, specifically Beijing 2008. It was critically panned on release for being obtuse, vague, not really a quote-unquote management game, taking too long to get started and just being plain weird. This was also the year that LMA Manager was at its peak, Total Club Manager had morphed into FIFA Manager, and Sports Interactive had just split from Eidos, now part of Square Enix, into the arms of Sega itself. I'm here to tell you why the critics were only half right, why the game is considered a cult classic, and how it relates to a small gaming forum, a Gran Turismo esports driver, and a transgender furry Twitch streamer. This is the story of Sega's strange PS2 football manager RPG.
Hello, I'm Nexus Draco, and you're watching Nexus Draco Gaming.
Now, in order to fully appreciate this game's history, I must go back to 1996, the year of my birth. Pokemon has just become a cult classic in the Japanese archipelago, and the Sega Saturn and PS1 were now a year old and both selling well in the Japanese domestic market. On Sega's new machine, they released the game Let's Make a Pro J-League Football Club with enough success to warrant a sequel the next year. The series was then a proven franchise and spawned 14 more games before the release of European Championship. These released on the Sega Dreamcast, Sony's PlayStation 2, the Humble PC, Nintendo's Game Boy Advance. And in the most Japanese way you can release a video game, feature phones. No, I am not kidding, Japanese feature phones were, and still are, quite wild. Now, some of you may have noticed I am avoiding using the Japanese names. That's because my Japanese is absolutely horrible and I'd rather not butcher such a beautiful language. The vast majority of these games focused exclusively on the J-League and were akin to sports RPGs, and yes, this technically means that Japanese Football Manager has existed in some form since 1996. After the release of European Championship, the series started to fizzle out, receiving 2 ill-fated MMOs on PC, 1 more PS2 game, 3 PSP games, some spin-offs on DS, and finally a reboot for the PS3 and PlayStation Vita. The reboot failed to garner many sales, and thus the series now only survives as a gacha football game called Pocket Club Manager, the second game released outside Japan and the first outside Europe. It released on Android and iOS. This brings us to Let's Make a Soccer Team, the game I called European Championship. I can only speculate that Sega released this in Europe because of its European focus and that they decided to expand the focus of the game in Japan. The localization process was briefly detailed in the book Writing for Video Game Genres published by CRC Press in 2009. Feel free to pause the video to give that a quick read. This leads me into what I believe makes the game so misunderstood and also so unique. The game has a storyline, like most of its series in Japan. You start a team, you see some cutscenes, and you meet your rival, a rather portly man with 2 assistants always hanging off his arms. In the English cover art he is referenced as Mr. Leonard, so I'll refer to him as the in-game name Leonard Chapman, though there are 3 random names per league. Leonard is the owner of a massive globe-spanning conglomerate, Big Bang Concern. Thick virgin, but run by someone with the charisma of former Newcastle owner Mike Ashley. Actually, looking at the 2, I think you may be the archetype of Mr. Chapman. In the intro, you decide on a league, region, and city between the top 6 at the time. These were England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands. Spain and the Netherlands were fully licensed, and Italy was mostly licensed, with some gaps. Even the Delle Alpi was licensed for Juventus. You could also play as a team anywhere in the UK for the English League, and in Monaco in the French League. You also write your name, choose a team colour, a team style, and a secretary. Only league, city, and style have any non-cosmetic effect. In this example, I picked the typical Nottingham start as it's the easiest and also the most appealing. This will be relevant later. The game will then show you newspapers of the 15 years of your club leading up to financial insolvency. There's some foreshadowing mainly with our rival Mr. Chapman and the final chance playoffs to the second league. Then it will drop you into a cutscene about Mr. Chapman starting a football business. Essentially, if you lose the playoffs, he buys you out. The playoffs are usually a cakewalk, yet sometimes the RNG will make you lose in funny ways. I had that happen 7 times trying to start my Let's Play before I gave up for 6 months. Speaking of, link to that in the top right. The other two English names for the rival are Webster Robertson and Stanley Branson. That last one is really on the nose, isn't it? Regardless, win the playoffs and you'll notice your league has 2 more teams than usual, the teams are wrong, and there's no relegation. Japan's season starts in March, Europe starts in August, and the game released in both regions as their seasons started, so teams are based on some hybrid of 2004-2005 strengths and 2005-2006 league positions. The Japanese version also had some bugs fixed in the localization. Anyway, the game has many cutscenes, many options, and locks itself off for the first month for many features, and takes a few seasons to open up. Games take a long time, seasons take a long time, and it requires dedication. Reviewers lacked time, and also the game wasn't marketed as the RPG it truly was. We were not ready. Cue Neoseeker. Neoseeker is a now mostly irrelevant forum kept alive by a few small cliques, usually power level arguments in the Dragon Ball forums, but back in its day it rivaled GameFAQs and NeoGAF. The forum for LMAST was the second highest used in 2008, only behind FIFA 2007, though it has mostly died except for posts from someone you may know. The forums became a hotbed of discussion and strategy between 2006 and 2012, with pages 11 through 38 being all during that time and pages 21 and on being from prior to 2010. Some big users who have long gone include I Love City, Red Devils SP, Just Playing It Cool, and Ingram Jones. Ingram was one of the owners of the now defunct Facebook fan page. Among these was one man named Over the Top 2, known in other circles as JOTT and Doha Yogurt. His YouTube link is in the top right now. He started 2 Let's Plays on Neoseeker, the latest in 2012, the exact Nottingham setup that I did, and that setup was also the same as my first game in 2007. I read his series with every post back when I lurked on the forums. Little did I know that I would later meet him in the Motorsport Manager modding community and become best friends. He is also responsible for many memes, like Alan Green Bingo, a reference to the repetitive lines of the game's English commentator from BBC Radio 5 Live. He also made many from the streams of the only person known to have streamed LMAST by any length of time, a man by the name of... Yes, I'm about to misgender and dead name a trans woman for historical context. I have her permission to do so. Wait, you don't believe me? Let me ask her now. Hey, can I misgender and dead name myself? Yeah, of course I can. Moving on. A man by the name Nexus Draco Gaming, a neurodivergent furry from Melbourne who had a massive dragon motif and often tended to talk about his life while playing LMAST. He had a lot of social, mental and financial difficulties alongside much childhood trauma and streamed 2 series. A series called RCD Merida from 2016 to 2017 which was interrupted and the data file lost in a house fire. After he moved to the Twin Cities of Albury and Wodonga, he made friends in a board game group with the local Good Games franchise playing Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering. In 2019 he started trade school as well to get a certificate of IT networking, all while streaming 10 seasons of LMAST as a new team, Saturday Layers FC. He managed to become a Twitch affiliate as well, and in early 2020 the pandemic messed up his mental health and he published one last season of LMAST, losing the Champions League final to AS Roma. In late 2020 she started the process of coming out as transgender and then moved to Brisbane in early 2021, where she's been living since, struggling and yet surviving. She deleted most of her social media in late 2021 due to a stalking incident, including her YouTube and Twitch channels and videos. The reason I go into such personal detail about this person, who is actually myself, is that I have been the one that has kept this game alive. I've made many of the edits to the online databases. I was the one who got the game's compatibility rating even put into PCSX2, let alone giving it the perfect rating. I also made a texture mod for PCSX2 that replaces all unlicensed club logos and most competition logos with their real and period accurate counterparts. This is why I can't really tell LMAST's story neutrally, so I'll actually be interviewing my friend OI Yogurt. If I'm the transgender furry in this story, he is the Gran Turismo esports driver. I'll be using certain parts of the interview in this video, as he was on Neoseeker for a long time before I was, and can be more neutral about how the game's community has evolved. The full interview will be available as a separate video, linked in the top right when it's ready. So, I have here Jay, or the person I was introducing in the interview. So Jay, can you introduce yourself for us please?
So yeah, I've had a fair amount of good memories with Let's Make a Soccer Team, both playing it and watching you play it. I guess I'll go further into what I mean as you ask the questions.
So, how did you find out about the game in the first place?
Well, it was actually via Virtua Pro Football, which was being sold. I get this. It was being sold new for $20 at Crazy Clark's.
Yes, the good old budget store. Same place I got my copy of Let's Make a Soccer Team and Virtual Pro Football, $20 each. Weird that, huh?
Yes, I believe they were only selling Virtua Pro Football at the time, but it was from Virtua Pro that I saw references to Let's Make a Soccer Team. Oh, you can import a player over to Let's Make a Soccer Team. Oh, there's this game. Why not try it? On the back cover of the manual, I think. So I eventually picked up Let's Make a Soccer Team.
Backwards to me, I found out about VPF via Let's Make a Soccer Team. So, yeah. So, when did you join NeoSeeker?
I believe it was 2010, August. I believe it was set to start posting in the Let's Make a Soccer Team forum, actually.
Just around the time I Love City and Red Devils SP, Wuppertal, all those guys were on the way out. I think they'd all left by 2012 and you're about the only one left. And then I come in what, 2015, 2014?
Yeah. It was good seeing them talk about the game at the time. NeoSeeker had a real cult following of Let's Make a Soccer Team there.
I mean, as I mentioned in the video, it was the second most used forum in 2008, behind FIFA 07. That's actually on Wikipedia. Weird that. Roberto Baggio actually was the spokesman for the game in Japan. Anyway, you started your game, both of your Let's Plays in Nottingham. I know I did the same thing and had the same strategy when setting it up. Basically, teamwork, Nottingham, and get a really good bloody sponsor. How did you discover that and how good was it for you?
Well, the thing is, it's not nearly a strategy because I discovered it purely by chance. I was thinking, based on the descriptions that the game gives you of each town, I don't really want to start in a town there where it says football is poorly followed.
Oh my god, that's the exact same reason I went through. We really are alike. God dang it.
Yes. But I didn't want to start somewhere where there was a ton of clubs already. So London was right out.
Same.
And see, the thing about Nottingham for England is that you've only got one other team and they're stuck in third division forever. So you basically got a free reign on a place which can potentially be a hotbed for football. According to the game.
And yeah, the funny thing enough now is Forest are back in the Premier League and actually 2 points above the relegation battle right now.
Yeah, somewhat of a revival for Forest.
Yeah. Anyway, any other cool strategies you figured out with the game? Like, this can include stuff we both figured out too, obviously.
Honestly, compared to the old guard at NeoSeeker and then you later, not a lot actually. I think insofar as I had unique knowledge, it was more along the lines of Virtua Pro Football and remembering how to optimize training for a player to import into Elmast.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I'll introduce in the Let's Play once I get V Drake, who is actually in the screenshot before this interview.
I think we both figured out that wing play was superior because I watched some of your games and it was like, oh wow, crossing it in from the wing is a very easy way to mess up the defense. I suppose it's by necessity because the games in Elmast are only 2-minute halves, so the defense has to be stupid by default. It's one of those things I'd always wished had been changed because with 3-minute halves, the scores would have been more realistic. It's a bit too low scoring in game.
FIFA Manager suffers from the opposite problem. The game engine, it runs perfectly with the amount of score, but the passes are wrong between the 3D games and the sim games, which really sets up quite a few different things in game. The players aren't recognised as passing as much, and this is even in the 2022 season mod, which I'm also database head as well.
Yeah, it's very difficult to balance sim stats to played stats. A lot of games have had that problem in all sports throughout history.
NBA still has it. How did we meet, by the way? I know, but I'd like to hear from your perspective.
Well, as you said, we first met up in the Motorsport Manager Discord. Motorsport Manager Discord. There was no official Discord, but, well, you mentioned that you were streaming. You streamed Motorsport Manager, and then, as you said, one day you switched to Let's Make a Soccer Team, and I was like, oh, I know this game, and we really hit it off from there. You invited me to your personal Discord. There were ups and downs from that point on, but we've always gravitated towards each other through thick and thin.
Definitely through thick and thin, as if it wasn't for you, I'd probably been dead in a ditch a long time ago. Seriously. So what do you play outside Let's Make a Soccer Team? And Motorsport Manager, obviously. I noticed on the YouTube channel you've got Football Tactics Glory, Super Woden GP.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what exactly I've been playing recently in particular. As you know, Gran Turismo, but racing games in general are something I've always held fondly, even if I've had my ups and downs with racing game communities. It's mostly up these days, but there was a time where it was not so good for me.
I vaguely remember you have played Buzzer Beater before as well, even being a national champion, which is an online basketball MMO. Give us a bit of an explanation about that.
Yeah, when I first got the internet on a full-time basis, it was in 2009, and my general like of racing and sports games gravitated me toward online managers. The first was Manager Zone. Trophy Manager was also in there at some point.
Remember
Football
that?
Identity.
Oh, Football Identity. Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah. Buzzer Beater came in 2012, and I liked that game in particular because it was more deterministic. You didn't have any horrendous beats because the game engine was screwing with you.
And you also didn't have the shitty RNG of throwing up in your helmet once every season like GPRO.
That game was just silly with its randoms.
I also noticed that you're pretty up there in my racing career at the minute too.
Yes, that's something else that I'm building towards. Still a relative newcomer to the game, but I kind of feel like I'm well on my way to establishing myself. One other thing that you might not necessarily know, I'm getting into golf video games a lot recently. I may end up uploading a certain golf game, talking about it on my own channel.
So yeah, the Inertia Drift meme you also made. Lopez seriously miscalculated.
Yes, I wish I knew how the YouTube algorithm worked so that I could do that on a consistent basis.
I can tell you exactly what that was. It was French cycling forums. I went diving.
I'm glad I had my 15 minutes of YouTube fame, and who knows, maybe I can do it again. I seem to have a knack for memes.
Describe your modding with Motorsport Manager.
Whilst I was never the absolute prime modder of Motorsport Manager, I did dabble with trying to fix the game balance in certain ways. Basically, I just had the itch to do a lot of testing for the Motorsport Manager in regards to the car speeds, and from that I think others were able to better balance the game themselves. Brian was doing his Rebirth Redux, and
That was a server we met in, actually, the Flaming Reds. It was also merged with the Fire and Ice team, and now they've actually just straight up retired, which is fair. F1 Manager killed that market.
oh, F1 Manager, what a debacle.
It's still not as good as GP Manager World, I'm going to be honest. Speaking of, you had a Minardi series for that. That lost to history?
For now, it's lost to history, but that's not to say a replacement won't come around someday.
I think that's about it. Final question. What do you personally think about the stuff I've done to keep LMAST alive?
I think you've been doing a brilliant job with Let's Make a Soccer Team. The Sabadell series in particular was huge whilst it was up. On that subject, do you have the archives for that?
The archives were lost in the move to Brisbane and permanently gone when I had that stalker issue, unfortunately. If I had archive footage, it would have been in this video.
That's an alas. But yeah, that aside, I think you were doing a really good job keeping the interest up for Let's Make a Soccer Team.
Thanks to Jay for the interview over Discord. That ends the first part of this video essay. Part 2 will arrive sometime between now and the heat death of the universe. Until next time, I'm Nexus Draco, and you've been watching Nexus Draco Gaming.